My son held my hand gently and said, "Mom, it's just temporary. The nursing home is safer for you." 3 weeks later, my house was listed for sale. And that's when I understood. I was never too old. I was just in the way. I am 74 years old. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. And until 6 months ago, I believed I had raised a good man. My son Daniel was my pride. After my husband died, I raised Daniel alone. I worked double shifts at the hospital cafeteria. I skipped vacations. I wore the same winter coat for 12 years so he could attend college. I thought sacrifice built loyalty. I was wrong. It started subtly. Daniel began mentioning safety. "Mom, those stairs are dangerous." "Mom, what if you fall?" "Mom, you live alone. That worries me." At first I thought it was love. Then came the doctor visit. A doctor I had never seen before. Daniel insisted. "Just a routine check, Mom." The doctor barely looked at me. He asked simple memory questions. "What year is it? Who is the president? What day is it?" I answered everything correctly, yet Daniel kept nodding seriously as if something was wrong. On the drive home, he was unusually quiet. 2 days later, he showed up with brochures. "Sunny Meadows Assisted Living." I laughed. "Daniel, I'm perfectly fine." He looked hurt. "I just want what's best for you." And because I loved him, I agreed to try it temporarily. The morning he drove me there, he packed my suitcase himself. He didn't let me bring much. "Just essentials, Mom." That should have been my first warning. When we arrived, the place smelled like antiseptic and overcooked vegetables. The residents looked lost. Some stared at the walls. Some mumbled to themselves. I felt perfectly sane, which made everything worse. The first week, Daniel visited twice. The second week, once. The third week, I saw something that changed everything. One of the nurses handed me a magazine. Inside, folded neatly, was a real estate advertisement. My house, my kitchen, my garden. Listed coming soon. Without my permission, without my signature, without my knowledge. That's when my heart didn't break. It hardened. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I did something much more dangerous. I started thinking, and Daniel had no idea. His confused old mother was about to outsmart him. If my son believed I was incapable, then I would let him believe it. Because sometimes, the smartest move is to play weak. I asked to use the phone. The receptionist hesitated. "Your son handles your affairs." "Interesting. Handles my affairs?" I never signed power of attorney, which meant something illegal was happening. I called my old friend Margaret. She had been my neighbor for 30 years. "Margaret," I said calmly, "go to my house and check the mailbox." An hour later, she called back. "There's a real estate lockbox on your front door." I closed my eyes. Daniel wasn't preparing to sell. He was actively selling. The next morning, Daniel visited. I smiled sweetly. "Oh, Danny, I'm so grateful you're taking care of everything." He relaxed immediately. "Yes, Mom. Don't worry about anything." I leaned forward slightly. "Did you know I never signed any legal paperwork?" His jaw tightened. "Of course you did. You don't remember?" "Ah, gaslighting. Classic." I pretended to look confused. "Oh, maybe I forgot." He looked relieved. He believed I was slipping. Perfect. That evening, I asked the nurse for access to my documents. She said Daniel had restricted visitors and information. That confirmed it. He had told them I was mentally declining, which meant he was building a case. To declare me incompetent, to take control legally. But he forgot something. Before my husband died, he insisted we meet with an estate lawyer just in case. And that lawyer was still alive. The next morning, I asked the front desk for a taxi. Doctor's appointment. I lied. Instead, I was going to visit the one man who could destroy my son's plan, and Daniel would never see it coming. The morning I left the nursing home in a taxi, my son believed I was going to a routine medical checkup. Instead, I was about to take back everything he thought he already owned. And if I succeeded, his for sale sign would become his biggest mistake. The taxi driver didn't ask questions. He dropped me off in front of a modest brick building downtown. The gold letters on the door read, Harrison and Cole, Estate and Probate Law. 32 years ago, my late husband had walked through that same door with me. Just in case, he had said. At the time, I thought it was unnecessary. Now it was salvation. Mr. Harrison was older, thinner, but his eyes were still sharp. Eleanor Whitmore, he said, standing up slowly. I haven't seen you since Robert passed. I sat down across from him. My son put me in a nursing home. He froze. Are you here willingly? Yes. Are you of sound mind? Yes. Then we can work. I told him everything. The nursing home, the real estate listing, the restricted access, the gaslighting. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back. Did you sign a power of attorney? No. Did you sign any transfer papers for the house? Absolutely not. He nodded slowly. Then legally, he cannot sell that property. Relief washed over me, but he wasn't finished. However, if he convinces a court you are mentally incompetent, he can petition for emergency guardianship. That would allow him to act on your behalf. There it was, the real plan, not just selling my house, erasing my legal control first. I want to transfer the house, I said calmly. Mr. Harrison blinked. To Daniel? I smiled for the first time that day. No. To someone who cannot be pressured, manipulated, or intimidated. He studied me carefully. Are you certain? Yes. Because once this is done, you cannot undo it easily. I'm not undoing anything, I said softly. I'm protecting myself. There are several ways to protect property: trusts, foundations, irrevocable transfers, and Robert had once told me, if you ever feel unsafe, put everything into a trust. Make it untouchable. So that's exactly what we did. Within 2 hours, paperwork was drafted. The house would be placed into an irrevocable trust. The beneficiary? A charitable housing organization for widows, with one condition. I could live there as long as I wanted, but it could never be sold for personal profit. Not by Daniel, not by anyone. When I signed the final page, my hand did not shake. Mr. Harrison looked at me. You realize this means your son will inherit nothing from this property. I realize, I replied. What he inherits from me now will be a lesson. But I wasn't finished. I leaned forward. I also want to update my will. His eyebrows lifted. Oh? Yes. Remove Daniel entirely. Replace him with structured charitable allocations, scholarships, elder abuse prevention programs, widow housing. Mr. Harrison paused. Are you acting from anger? I thought carefully. No, I am acting from clarity. He nodded. Then let's proceed. Before leaving, Mr. Harrison made one more call to the real estate agency listing my home. He informed them. The property is now legally protected under trust law. Any attempt to sell would constitute fraud. The listing would be removed immediately. That evening, back at the nursing home, I returned to my room quietly. Daniel called an hour later. His voice was tight. Mom, did you go somewhere today? Yes, sweetheart. Where? To make sure I'm safe. Silence. Then, Mom, The realtor called. They said something about a trust. I pretended confusion. Oh, that sounds complicated. Did you transfer the house? Yes. Another silence. But this one wasn't confusion. It was rage. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the nursing home with papers in his hand, and this time, he wasn't pretending to be the caring son. He was desperate. And desperate people make dangerous moves. When my son walked into my nursing home room that morning, he wasn't holding flowers. He was holding court papers, and in his eyes, there was no love left, only panic. Daniel didn't sit down. He didn't kiss my cheek. He dropped the documents on the small wooden table beside my bed. What did you do? He demanded. I folded my hands calmly in my lap. I protected myself. His jaw tightened. You had no right to transfer that house without consulting me. I looked at him steadily. It was never yours to consult about. That's when the mask fell. You don't even understand what you've done, he snapped. You've made yourself look unstable? Unstable. That word again? He needed that word, because without it, he had no case. He leaned closer. Mom, I filed for emergency guardianship. There it was, the nuclear option. If granted, it would give him full legal control over my finances, medical decisions, property, everything. He wouldn't need the house anymore. He'd own me. You'll regret this, he said coldly. The court will see how confused you've become. I tilted my head slightly. Daniel, do you know what an irrevocable trust is? His face flickered, just for a second, doubt. You wouldn't understand something like that without being manipulated? I smiled softly. I wasn't manipulated. I was advised, and that terrified him. He didn't realize something crucial. To prove I was incompetent, he would have to prove I lacked capacity at the moment I signed the trust documents, which meant if I passed a psychological evaluation now, his entire case would collapse, and the trust would remain untouchable. 3 days later, I was escorted to court. Daniel walked beside his lawyer. I walked beside mine. Yes, I had hired my own attorney. Quietly, efficiently. Mr. Harrison had moved fast because he understood something. This wasn't about property anymore. This was about control. The courtroom felt colder than it should have. Daniel avoided my eyes. His lawyer stood confidently. Your Honor, Mrs. Whitmore has demonstrated erratic behavior and poor financial judgment. She impulsively transferred her primary residence into an irrevocable trust, clearly under undue influence. Undue influence, meaning someone manipulated me. They were painting me as weak, easily controlled, vulnerable. Then it was our turn. My attorney stood. Your Honor, my client independently scheduled a legal consultation. She answered extensive legal questions with clarity. She understood every document she signed. We also have a psychiatric evaluation performed after the transfer. The judge raised an eyebrow. Where is this evaluation? Mr. Harrison handed it over. Dr. Amelia Grant, licensed psychiatrist, full cognitive assessment. Results. Fully oriented, no cognitive impairment. Above average executive function for age. The judge read silently. Daniel shifted in his seat, sweat forming at his temples. Then Daniel was called to testify. Why are you seeking guardianship? The judge asked. For my mother's protection, Daniel said carefully. Protection from what? She's making reckless decisions, such as giving away her house. The judge looked up. Giving away one's property is not proof of incompetence. It may simply be generosity. Daniel faltered. She's being manipulated? By whom? Silence. Because there was no one. No cult, no scam artist, no suspicious boyfriend. Just me. Thinking clearly, acting deliberately. Then it was my turn. I stood. Back straight. Voice steady. "Mrs. Whitmore," the judge said gently, "why did you transfer your home into a trust?" I looked directly at Daniel. "Because I discovered my son was trying to sell it while I was placed in a facility I did not medically require." Gasps in the courtroom. Daniel's lawyer objected. "Speculation." I didn't raise my voice. "I have the real estate listing, Your Honor." The printout was submitted, time-stamped, active listing, while I was in assisted living, without my consent. The judge's expression changed. Now he wasn't evaluating me. He was evaluating him. "Mr. Whitmore," the judge said slowly, "did you list your mother's home for sale?" Daniel swallowed. "I was exploring options." "Did you have legal authority?" "No." "Did your mother sign any documentation authorizing this?" "No." Silence filled the room. Then the judge leaned back. "This court does not see a mentally incompetent woman. It sees a competent woman protecting her assets." He paused. "And it sees a son attempting to gain control prematurely." Prematurely, meaning before I was dead. "Emergency guardianship is denied." The words echoed. "Furthermore, any further harassment or unauthorized attempts to interfere with Mrs. Whitmore's property may result in legal consequences." Daniel looked stunned. But I wasn't finished, because this wasn't about winning. It was about walking away stronger. As we exited the courthouse, Daniel grabbed my arm. "You've destroyed this family," he whispered. I gently removed his hand. "No, Daniel. You destroyed it the moment you thought I was worth more dead than alive." And for the first time, he realized something terrifying. He hadn't just lost the house. He had lost me. 3 weeks after the court ruled in my favor, my son came to see me one last time. But this time, he didn't come with lawyers. He came with fear, because he finally understood something. He hadn't just lost the house. He had lost his inheritance. Daniel stood in my living room. Yes, my living room. Because after the court case, I checked myself out of the nursing home. No medical restriction, no court order, no reason to stay. He watched as I packed a small suitcase. "You're moving?" he asked. "Yes." "Where?" "Somewhere peaceful." That was all I gave him. "Mom, you didn't have to go this far." I looked at him quietly. "How far?" "The trust, the lawsuit, cutting me out." Ah, there it was. Not, "Why did you think I was incompetent?" Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "Why did you protect your money?" I walked to the kitchen and poured myself tea. "Daniel, tell me honestly, when you put me in that facility, did you believe I was unsafe?" He hesitated. Then he said something I will never forget. "You were in the way." Not shouted, not angry, just matter of fact, in the way. Of what? His lifestyle, his comfort, his plans. In that moment, I felt no anger, only clarity. "Daniel," I said gently, "I updated my will." His shoulders stiffened. "To what?" "I removed you." The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. "You wouldn't." "I did." He stared at me like I had slapped him. "You're punishing me." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm freeing myself." I explained it slowly. The house was in a trust. The money was restructured. Half to elder protection organizations, half to scholarships for single mothers. "Everything you were counting on," I said softly, "now belongs to people who understand gratitude." He looked stunned. "So that's it?" "Yes." "You're choosing strangers over your own son?" I met his eyes. "I'm choosing respect over blood." "You'll regret this." he said quietly. Maybe. And when you're old and alone? I smiled faintly. Daniel, I was alone when you were still living off me. That hit him harder than anything else. Because it was true. You can be surrounded by family and still be invisible. The next morning, I stood outside my house one last time. The garden was blooming, the same roses I planted when Daniel was 5. I touched the door gently. Then I handed the keys to the trust administrator. I wasn't losing my home. I was releasing it. I moved into a beautiful apartment downtown. Smaller, brighter, filled with sunlight. No memories of being used, no echoes of arguments, just peace. I started painting again, joined a book club, traveled to Italy. For the first time in decades, I spent money without guilt. Daniel never called again. But I heard through relatives that he and his wife had downsized. She had started working. He had taken a second job. Maybe struggle would teach him what comfort never did. Now, let me say something directly to you. If someone in your life makes you feel like your value depends on what you give, stop. If they only show up when they need something, notice. And if you are afraid to set boundaries because they are family, remember this. Family without respect is just obligation. And obligation is not love. I am 74 years old, and the most powerful thing I ever did was say no. Not loudly, not angrily, just firmly. And I have never felt richer. My son thought he could put me away like old furniture. What he didn't realize was, I was never something to store. I was something to lose. And he did. If this story touched you, if it made you think, or reminded you that your dignity is worth protecting, please support this channel. Like this video so more people can hear stories like this. Subscribe if you believe strength has no age, and share your thoughts in the comments, because your voice matters too. Until next time, choose yourself.